अष्टविनायक नमो नमः गणपति बप्पा मोरया मंगल मूर्ति मोरया.
Top of the morning, Bay, with Good Morning Bay.
Get to know about the traffic on your way and what's news around the world today.
Some wisdom skills along the way.
Oh, and a song to hum along with and sway.
Get your perfect entertaining start to the day.
At 9 a.m. every weekday morning with
Mahima's
Good Morning Bay.
सभी लोग हमारी तरफ से एक प्यार भरा नमस्ते,
नमस्कार,
वनकम,
नमस्कार,
खुश आमदीद,
सलाम अलैकुम,
सत श्री अकाल,
అందరికీ వందనము,
जय स्वामी नारायण,
जय श्री कृष्ण,
जय जिनेंद्र.
हमारे इस्माइली भाई बंधुओं को बोलते हैं याली मदद,
मोलाली मदद बोलते हुए सारे फीजी मंदिरों को बोलेंगे नीसा बोला बंदजान. हम आ गए हैं आपके प्यारे महिमा के द्वारा. मैसेज फालतू बाबा
and of course myself फालतू रानी लेकर आपके लिए एक और drive time that's going to make your Wednesday morning totally wonderful and hopefully totally मस्तानी बंदजानी.
चुदा बंदजान. and of course मुझे मालूम है आप वेडनेसडे आप सोच रहे हैं यार कोविड शेल्टर इन प्लेस अभी चालू है. हाँ भाई अभी भी चालू है. इनफैक्ट इट इज गोइंग टू बी ऑन इवन आफ्टर द June 5th. Yeah, it's supposed to open up as of June 4th, but actually, you know, our superintendent has actually called up and told us, not told us actually, as he has given she's given a statement saying that we got to be, it's better for us to be in shelter in place as much as possible. Just to be safer. But yeah, it'll open up. Businesses are going to open up for sure. हाँ वो तो रहेगा लेकिन again, but we're going to come to a new normal. Understand that it'll be a new like normal right now. Many things are going to change. Many things it will not be the same as what it was almost 79 days ago. Yes, Pranjan, it's been 79 days since we have gone into our shelter-in-place situation. So if at all you guys are wondering how many days has it been, 79 days, Pranjan. We've been counting. Who's been counting? Yes, we have been counting. Because we just can't wait for things to open up for us to get back to our, so-called normalcy of life. Yes, many of our bandhus we've been talking to also have the same thing, but of course concern always is their health. Health comes first. That's one thing we learned in the shelter-in-place, Banjan. This particular COVID-19 told us health is everything, right? Mm-hmm. Wealth you can lutify on health, right? If you have health, everything else will work, right?
Yeah.
And we know this, it's happening. And unfortunately, there's also something happening around in America is about the systemic racism and how it is affecting everybody out here. When I say everybody out here, not only do we have a shelter in place for COVID-19, we also have a curfew administered by many of the mayors of multiple cities, just so everybody is safe, right? Because there's some miscreants actually in the community who actually are utilizing the, ये protest के आड़ में बहुत कुछ कर रहे हैं, which actually is very, very destructive. Property damage ho, even for the matter, people, looting stuff, right? That all this happening. And it's very sad to note, but of course, क्या करे यार, it's happening. And yes, all I can tell you, Faltrani, is one very very interesting wisdom in one sentence.
Right.
This too shall pass.
Well, I hope when it is passing, Manajan, I hope it's not something that is going to be the sort of situation where we just forget about what happened. We just say, oh, you know what, raat gayi, baat gayi types. No, it doesn't work that way.
Well, this actually is from a very interesting Zen story. When supposedly, can I share a story, Faltrani? It's a very quick story actually.
Yeah, go
ahead. King actually goes to a monk and tells the monk, oh my God, I've got so many troubles in my life. My kingdom is going into loss. Crops are very bad. The yield is so bad. My son is who's a prince is just wasting money, being totally, useless. Oh, I'm so frustrated. So the monk tells him one thing. He says, this too will pass. So after some time, he comes back next day, meets again, bumps into the monk, and he tells the monk, oh my God, you won't believe it. I have my country is doing so well right now. We actually are in profits. We're actually making a lot of money. And guess what? My son, God bless his soul, is going to become a great ruler just like me. He is totally turned around 360, blah, 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 and everything. You know what the monk tells that time? This too shall pass.
Oh God, that is terrible.
Well, the message out here is the fact that nothing is forever, and everything will pass. And I think I should tell you one thing, Bajan. Aaj ka Karya Kida also has something in those lines there for you guys. Now, this is like age-old wisdom which we all don't want to listen to at a certain time in our life.
Right.
But nevertheless, we have to, right? But right now, Baja, it's time for us to go listen to something which is very important, right?
Okay.
And this important thing is the fact that Faltwani, on the roads, right?
Huh.
I just love the traffic update I'm going to give right now to Bandhus.
Why?
It is so smooth and nice out there. So
No,
Bandhus,
are you kidding me? I saw so many cars on
well,
the road.
Faltwani, let me tell you one thing. It's the smooth as long as water is flowing, like traffic is flowing, it's smooth, right?
Yeah.
So it is flowing. Not many incidents report for you guys. So it's kind of good. People are mindfully driving out there, and only people who need to drive are driving, not needlessly driving.
Okay,
Many people who have those accidents who actually drive rash are people who don't needlessly drive.
true that.
Yeah, just want to show off that they have a very nice car and all that stuff, right? Not people wanting to go from point A to point B.
Right.
Many a times. But anyway, this is your traffic update, which we call Raste Ka Hal Total Sustenance.
Coming up, Banjar. It's coming up right now. Well, I have to give production value right now because our
Yeah.
sound is not playing for some reason.
For some reason. Yeah, there you go.
It's time for the Bandhu Traffic Update. Call us from wherever you are at 408-912-2479.
Like I already told you, Banjan, there's actually not much of traffic report for you guys. Green roads everywhere. I'm seeing construction work in different places, so watch out for that. Drive very carefully in those regions. Okay, there's some delay to be expected on the 4. Actually, it's very far off outskirts. Actually, pretty much Concord ke aaspaas means actually you're having a delay there because of an accident over there. That's it in Pittsburgh area. Now, that's not going to affect anything, any other area here in south, down south or north for the Banjan. It's like totally. You know, it's green roads all the way for I've never have seen such green roads. Yeah,
Really?
actually I have seen for the past 79 days I'm seeing green roads. वैसे green roads हमारा जो map update आता है, we actually see green. If at all, it's going to be like light traffic.
Right.
And no traffic on the edge. And if it like, if there's like red, it's like a dangerous traffic. Too many back-to-back stuff happening.
Right.
But anyway, Banjan, that was your traffic update. But you might wonder what's happening next, right?
Next is, of course, आपको मालूम है हमारे Good Morning Day पे हमेशा हम आपको एक earworm of a song देते हैं. A song that is going to be a गाने का कीड़ा for you. Meaning something that gets into your zehen through your ears and goes coursing through your veins.
What Urdu you're talking? Zehen through your eyes, through your
ears.
Oh, too much.
And if you're watching us, of course, through your eyes too, Banjan, because you will also see us dancing to that particular song.
Well, looking at all the news, Banjan, reading all the news and everything, please, apne chehre pe 12 ban baja, please. That's what even the song is telling you, Banjan. So enjoy the song. The late Rishi Kapoor Saab with Amitabh Bachchan ji in this movie called 102 Not Out.
समझ ले इशारा क्या बोले तुम मस्ती में जी ले जुम्बा 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 यारा समझ ले इशारा क्या बोले तुम मस्ती में जी ले जुम्बा जुम्बा सर से गिरा दे फिकर का बोझा कमर हिला के हैप्पी हैप्पी हो जा कहना तू मान ले मेरा यारा समझ ले इशारा क्या बोले तुम मस्ती में जी ले जुम्बा 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 यारा समझ ले इशारा क्या बोले तुम मस्ती में जी ले जुम्बा जुम्बा हरदम तू है परेशान फूरू स्टेशन की तू है दुखा तेरी समस्या का नो समाधान तू दुखी है तू दुखी है तू है दुखी आत्मा श्रीमान सर पर टेंशन का टाइम बाउंस तेरी लाइफ एक वेबसाइट का फॉर्म नाम है जिसका चिंता.com बुढ़िया रहने दे चूरन वाली बुढ़िया अपना ले नुस्खा मेरा बढ़िया मन में छूटेगी फुलझड़ियां यारा समझ ले इशारा क्या बोले तुम मस्ती में जी ले जुम्बा जुम्बा यारा समझ ले इशारा क्या बोले तुम मस्ती में जी ले जुम्बा जुम्बा सर से गिरा दे फिकर का बोझा कमर हिला के हैप्पी हैप्पी हो जा कहना तू मान ले मेरा यारा समझ ले इशारा
Very important message out there for you guys from the song Gane Ka Keeda, which actually is a very interesting Gana Faltani. Was it written by Amit Bhattacharya?
Yes, it was Amitabh.
What a very nice way of writing. In fact, I like the guy's writing. It's pretty thoughtful. And it's nice. Actually, in fact, just imagine, Faltani, people get so tensed about so many things, right?
Yeah.
There's no point in getting tense. Just relax. You live in the moment, smile, have fun, make merry. That's what you got to do, right?
Yeah.
And that movie, if you haven't seen Banjan, Manoj Not Out, is really worthwhile watching. Go check it out. Excellent performance by Rishi Kapoor Saab and also Amitabh Bachchan ji. They totally live the roles.
Yeah.
And towards the end, it is sad, but it's happy sad. It's like, gives you kind of peace of mind. Like,
It's a cathartic sadness.
Yeah.
Meaning it's something that is a total release of, all the pent up frustration, so to speak, and the pent up angst. And the movie is sort of like, it puts you in that state of mind that whatever has to happen will happen. It depends on the attitude with which you take life.
Yeah, and of course, this movie is a big plug for this particular device available everywhere.
Which one?
Which has 5,000 songs in it. Many people actually have bought
Oh,
it.
yeah.
That movie was a total plug for it, actually.
Yeah,
it was like a movie made for it.
No, actually, I think that was product placement,
It is
clearly.
100% product placement, Pathwani.
Yeah.
Otherwise, how will they fund that movie?
Yeah.
Right? And right now, Bachchan, I will tell you what's coming up. It's actually time for us to be going into our news updates. And yes, if you want to get some details about the news we share with you guys on air, there's only one place you can go check it out, banjarsmediamahima.com, because we compile the news on different sources for you guys, Routers, BBC, and all the places. So basically, important news which you can keep in mind. Kareeb around 4 or 5 news items which really will, enrich your life. And enough to know. But if you want to read in detail about the news and catch up other things as well, you can go click on the link available for you guys on Media Mahima, where the stories have been shared for you guys. Banjan actually read up more about the stories as well. So right now, Banjan, let's quickly go take a look at what's news, and we'll probably start off with the headlines. Right, Faltwani?
Yes, we will. We just want to wish some of our bandhus joining us on Facebook. Thank you so much for tuning in every single morning. Raj Lakhotias ji, very, very good morning to you. I had a few other names I forgot. Okay, some of our bandhus from Pakistan and Radio Listeners Club. I had no idea there was something like that. Thank you so much for joining us, and we sure do hope that we are able to keep you informed and entertained and fun-formed every single day of the week.
All right, so there you go, buddy. This is your headlines for today, and headlines mein start karte hain. Faltwani, what we have first thing?
Well, limited evidence regarding extremists driving the protests. President Trump has been making claims that the protests are driven by the Antifa or, extremist groups. But according to a Homeland Security report, they're saying that there is no evidence of the fact that this is driven by extremists. Protests over George Floyd's death flare nationwide, despite the several curfews that have been imposed in several cities. Pope urges the U.S. reconciliation and condemns racism and street violence. Amid George Floyd protests, weaponized misinformation is flooding social media. After Facebook staff walk out, Mark Zuckerberg defends no action on Trump posts. Trump administration to bar Chinese passenger carriers from flying to the United States. And Mumbai escapes Cyclone Nisarga's fury, little impact in Gujarat.
That was your headlines for you guys, Banjan. So let's go see what's happening in the news in detail. And it's coming up right now for you guys. And if you want to catch up in detail about the news, please go to our Facebook page, our website, mediamahima.com.
President Donald Trump has blamed left-wing extremist groups for instigating nights of looting and violence in cities across the United States, but an intelligence assessment offers limited evidence that organized extremists are behind the turmoil. In part of June 1 internal intelligence assessment of the protests viewed by Reuters, Panjan, U.S. Department of Homeland Security officials have said that most of the violence appears to have been driven by opportunists. The assessment prepared by the department's Intelligence and Analysis Unit said there was some evidence based on open source and the Department of Homeland Security reporting that the anarchist movement Antifa may be contributing to the violence, a view shared by some local police departments in public statements and interviews with Reuters. Reuters has only viewed portion of the documents, and they could not determine if it addressed the tactics of the groups involved in the protests in greater detail elsewhere. It's a developing story, Banajan, but it is something that does discredit some claims with regard to extremist organizations only that are at play with regard to the protests. Speaking of the protests, right, Altababa, I wanted to add this. Canada's Justin Trudeau, he always has something eloquent to say. He's sort of, like our previous president, Barack Obama. They always have something kind, and even though there are these long pauses, they say something that makes a difference, kind of thing. And very seldom is he found speechless. Well, when the Canadian Prime Minister was asked about what he thought of President Trump's action to quash a wave of protests across the United States, Trudeau paused for 21 seconds before responding as the cameras recorded his awkward silence.
Well, I don't think it's awkward. I think he did you listen to his speech?
No.
Very, very, very nice. I think he touched upon a very interesting point. Well, first of all, he talked about the fact that that racism is not only limited to America.
Yeah.
He said it's also part of Canada. It's very true.
Yes.
In fact, any part of it, it's like all over the world, the white supremacy thing is going on. Anybody of color are the people who are suffering in this case. And him being a person, being an ally,
Yeah.
I think he spoke very well. He spoke of the fact that we got to take responsibility. That's what ally does, right? Take
Yes.
responsibility on it and make sure before pointing fingers on people. Because if what the journalists wanted to I was trying to see, they wanted controversy. They wanted to sell the news.
Well, yeah,
But
even the
he
way
actually-
they asked the question also was like, yeah.
And it was derogatory way of asking the question, but I think he excelled in giving it out with grace. I know. I think that's one thing good about him, and good orators actually do it. They don't actually, give in to all the pressure of the media.
Yeah.
That's what even Barack Obama has to do, I suppose. That's why he's a good orator.
Well, it's also the fact that, remember he was embroiled in controversy not so long ago with regard to blackface
Yeah.
himself, right? So I think it was a lot of that came into play, and it was very nice how he turned it around from the United States and made it about institutionalized racism in Canada too.
No, that's true.
So he brought it home, but at the same time he did say that it's important to pull people together and it is time to listen.
Yeah, I think he needs to lose the goatee also, by the way.
Yeah. Well, anyways, let's come back to the United States and we'll talk about, remember that act, the Insurrection Act that President Trump is going to invoke to bring the military in?
Okay.
Well, U.S. Defense Secretary Mark Esper said on Wednesday that he does not support invoking the Insurrection Act to deploy active duty forces to quell civil unrest, a move President Trump threatened to take to stem protests that have roiled the nation. Trump this week said he could use military forces in states that fail to crack down on sometimes violent protests over the killing of George Floyd, an unarmed black man at the hands of a white police officer in Minneapolis. The option to use active duty forces in a law enforcement role should only be used as a matter of last resort and only in the most urgent and dire of situations.
Yeah, that's that there was a law that says that the army doesn't have jurisdiction on the soil of America, right?
Yeah, and he says we are not in one of those situations right now,
Thank
Esper
God. Yeah.
told a news briefing, and he said, I do not support invoking the Insurrection Act. You know what, Mark Esper? Our sympathies are with you. I have a feeling he's going to be next on the chopping block.
Oh, yeah. Probably he can find a job in Facebook.
No, he won't.
Opening came up, right?
Given what's going on with regard to Facebook, I'll be sharing that also with you shortly, Panjam. But let's tell you that yesterday, for those of you who are followers of Mr. President Donald Trump, he actually went to a Catholic congregation, right? And he did the same thing that he did when he held up the book in front of the Episcopal Church, and he got blasted by the diocese, right, over there.
He's like, if not you, I go to the Catholics.
Yeah, and he's done that, and he got blasted by that also because he technically is not praying supposedly, and he's just making everywhere he's making a symbolic statement.
But here's the thing, Faltoni. I always tell you one thing, right? I know you don't like me because you always say I'm very what do you call it, Pollyannish at this time. But I tell you what, always a positive to everything. You know what? He might not be praying, but he's making all of us pray.
Yes, that's true.
He's making all of us pray that.
Well, he's praying, but given wait. He is praying with a spelling mistake, P-R-E-Y and not P-R-A-Y.
Even that he's not doing effectively, Faltoni.
Yeah, that's true. Actually, he's preying upon the fears of several Americans, man. Yeah, he is, because he's stoking those fears and saying that anybody who's different, anybody who's an immigrant, anybody who is blacks, anybody who is different from being a white American is a problem for us.
Yeah, and also there's one very interesting saying in Indian culture, in Indian philosophy actually,
right.
The Hindu philosophy I should make it, because right now I think we're going to change the name of India to Bharat also soon.
Really?
Yeah, it's going to happen.
What?
So the
seriously?
Yeah, you remember I told you about the Akhanda Bharat thing?
Yeah.
It's going to probably happen. But the point is, Faltoni, the very point, hey, what was I going to tell you? Yeah, so whenever a flame, right? A flame. Have you...
Chingadi.
Chingadi is a spark, right?
Yeah.
And the flame, I don't know how many of you actually have used oil lamps. When the flame is like pudukufying too much, like, jumping too much.
It means going out?
It's the end of its term.
So.
I would say, yeah, Trump, go ahead. More power to you.
Oh, there is a very simple saying, Altava, Vinashakale Viparita Buddhi.
No, Viparita Buddhi, somebody should have some buddhi in the first place. That is Durbuddhi right there, what they have.
Oh, God.
But just sorry about that. I don't mean to actually spew Sanskrit thing to you. I just felt like, today was the day I've been reminded of all those things, happening in the world and what's happening, what's the connection to it also, right? You actually have a lot of time in shelter in place to contemplate on these things.
Well, there's just, and of course, people do say, you see all these memes on Facebook where people are saying, shut off the TV, shut off the news media.
You do it. It's fine. It's good.
Yes, but at least keep yourself informed as to what is going on. And Bandajan, this is something that I have seen across the board.
Yeah.
An ally is somebody who speaks up and stands up for somebody whose rights are being trampled upon.
Mm-hmm.
And we believe very strongly in that, Bandajan. And whether it is somebody who is of a different color, somebody of a different ethnic origin, or somebody who has a different developmental delay or difference. Mm-hmm. It can be anybody. The idea is to be able to make sure that when something wrong is happening, that you stand by the people who are the oppressed. Mm-hmm. And to an extent, that's what's going on in the protests across the country, the peaceful protests. I'm pretty sure a lot of you have been seeing beautiful memes and, where police officers who are laying down their batons and marching alongside the protesters. Mm-hmm. That was so, for me, it really talked about solidarity there.
Yeah, I think to me it was more like, that is humanity,
Right.
So no matter how many things, actually there's supposed to be a balance in the world which comes up.
Yeah.
And continue, Fatwan. You were saying something else.
Well, the other news item that I wanted to share was with regard, I was talking to you about how he went to the Catholic Church, right? So guess who issued a statement? Pope Francis called for national reconciliation in the United States on Wednesday, saying that while racism is intolerable, the street violence that has broken out is self-destructive and self-defeating. Francis broke his silence on the tensions in the United States, which has seen 8 nights of protests over the death of a black man in police custody, by dedicating the entire English language section of his weekly audience to the turmoil there. He called the death of George Floyd, a 46-year-old African American who died after a white policeman pinned his neck under a knee for nearly 9 minutes, as tragic. And he said he was praying for all those who died as a result of the sin of racism, including Floyd. And he said, "My friends, we cannot tolerate or turn a blind eye to racism and exclusion in any form, and yet claim to defend the sacredness of every human life." He said, "At the same time, we have to recognize that violence of the recent nights is self-destructive and self-defeating. Nothing is gained by violence, and so much is lost." Which is, sort of true, but at the same time, it's good to hear religious leaders coming out, especially because that is what is being touted by the head of our state. You know what I mean? The head of the church and the head of the state. So we're hoping that there will be a distinction that's going to be drawn. But anyway.
I'm waiting for him to come to a Hindu temple and do it. I think probably he'll do it, I suppose. He'll hold the Gita and he'll say, hey, yeah, photo opportunity here, please.
He'll probably, he'll stand with Modi and he'll hold up.
I don't think Modi's busy right now. Probably at G7.
At the G7, yes, exactly. Well, amid all this, all these protests, Banajan, weaponized misinformation is flooding social media. So don't believe everything that you see on social media. There is bouquets of brightly colored flowers and prayer candles rest at the door of a small windowed guard booth in downtown Oakland, California. A ribbon with an American flag motif waves from the door handle. 2 bullet holes pop mark the booth's windows. This is where Dave Patrick Underwood, 53 years old, was fatally shot around 9:45 p.m. on Friday while working as a contract security officer for the Department of Homeland Security, according to the FBI. This shooting also injured another DHS contract security guard, which took place the killing blocks from where thousands of protesters had gathered to mark of George Floyd. Now, in this case, the officer who was fired had been charged with murder, and like Floyd, Underwood also was an African American. Initial news reports of Underwood's shooting linked the incident to the protests. As is often the case, the conjecture on Twitter and other social media sites ran away from the changing facts on the ground. They just connected it directly with the protest. It wasn't exactly connected to that protest.
Yeah.
And as early as Friday night, Oakland police sent an alert to reporters saying that it did not appear to be related to that night's demonstrations. But they made it reported. So it's something that you really need to make sure that you are fact-checking every single thing. Like Patrick Underwood, Justice for Patrick Underwood already started trending, but they're not the same as George Floyd. You know what I mean? It wasn't caused because of the protests. FBI's report also came out, but Twitter said that it came out a little too late.
Twitter said that?
Yes, because they said they cannot do anything about trending hashtags.
Yeah.
On social media. Once something is out there, it's out there. So when you're sharing, please be careful. They said that Underwood was murdered by protesters and rioters.
Yeah, when something is out there, we can't think about. See, it's been 4 years. We can't think about it until it gets back inside again.
Yeah.
We've got to make sure we keep it out.
Yes, exactly.
Learn from our past mistakes and do not repeat it in the future.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So definitely check that out. But one thing for sure is that Facebook CEO Mark Zuckerberg isn't budging over his refusal to take action on inflammatory posts by President Donald Trump that spread misinformation about voting by mail, and many said as violence against protesters. Zuckerberg's critics, however, are multiplying. Some employees have publicly quit over the issue, and civil rights leaders who had a 2-hour-long call with him also denounced his explanation for choosing to leave Trump's post alone, as he says, quote, incomprehensible. Yeah, and criticism has been mounting after Trump's social media posts about protests in Minneapolis and across the country in the wake of the George Floyd death have become increasingly aggressive. And yesterday there was also a virtual walkout of Facebook employees. And after that, in audio that was leaked, apparently Mark Zuckerberg addressed Facebook employees, and he said that nothing is going to change his mind.
So what's a virtual walkout? Is walkout for Zoom meeting?
I guess so.
Or log out?
They all just log out, maybe?
Hey,
I don't know.
How do you know that? See, that's reporting, Manaja. Please dig deeper, because it may not be a walkout also.
Yeah.
It could be a lost connection.
No, but one engineer actually today quit. There was an updated story, but we'll bring you that
but
tomorrow.
virtual walkout is so difficult to actually identify, right? What? What do we say?
No, it's like left the meeting. Hello. That's what it is. That's what they mean.
Probably they didn't get any. Already, it's difficult for Mark Zuckerberg to have expression on his face. Probably they thought they might have read it differently. His screen would have frozen probably.
I don't know what he's thinking. But
That's why he just said they thought he didn't respond to it. He might have said something, but sometimes it happens. You freeze.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly, and that is the worst part about technology because at the most crucial moments it'll freeze. And let's also tell you, Punjab, President Trump's administration has barred Chinese passenger carriers from flying to the United States starting June 16th as it pressures Beijing into letting US carriers resume flights amid simmering tensions between the world's two largest economies. And for those of you who use Zoom for your meetings, well, that company is here to stay. Despite all their security flaws, they've really bolstered it up, and everybody is now using Zoom for their meetings. So let us tell you, that's one particular giant you definitely want to be putting your money on, is what news reporters are saying across the world. And also in India, Mumbai and Gujarat are safe from Cyclone Nisarga, is what they're saying. So more on all these stories you can go catch up on mediamahima.com. We'll be back tonight live at 5 with another wonderful edition of the Pam Pam Show, Bandajan. Till then, have yourselves a wondrous Wednesday.
Happy, happy